matched by a reclamation of the land itself. In other lands, men entered the primeval forests, cleared the foliage and the underbrush, fought for space to live, for space to grow the crops man needs. In Israel, it has been the other way around. Men bring all their skill to the task of planting man-made forests. And as they test the soil in preparation for the moment in which a forest will be born, they strengthen bonds with Jews throughout the world. For the forests that are born in Israel are the work of many hands. The hands of those who search for the secrets of nature in Israel, and the hands of men and women who, thousands of miles away, share the dream of a verdant land reclaimed. The testing of the soil is only one of many steps that must be taken long before the moment in which the tender roots are gently placed in Israel's soil. For if a forest is to flourish, the prevailing winds must be just right. The relative humidity must be considered. The soil structure of the area must be checked. And so for months before, technicians assemble facts and figures which will aid the Jewish National Fund in making its decisions as to when and where a forest will be born. At headquarters of the Jewish National Fund, the maps are drawn and studied. The decisions that must be made are not only where and when to plant, but also what kind of trees are to be planted. Each map drawn helps to find the solution to a question. Each contour studied helps to bring the moment of a forest's birth that much closer, and each such forest is part of a master plan. Guiding that master plan is Mr. Joseph Weitz, the director of the Afforestation Department of the Jewish National Fund. For many decades, he has helped to shape an early dream of a verdant Israel into today's reality. The JNF's tree nurseries, located in many parts of Israel, must produce at the right time, the right number and the right variety of seedlings to be planted. This is the Fund's tree nursery in the Judean mountains, in Samson's country, to be exact, in Eshtaol. The workers at Eshtaol have come mainly from North Africa and Yemen, from various cultures and backgrounds. At Eshtaol, they share a common vision, the vision of a country once again made green. There is a reason why a tree nursery is called a nursery, for as with children, so with tiny seedlings, it is care and concern and love which make them grow. Even the simple task of punching drainage holes in soil tins which will hold the growing seedlings can be an act of love. This is work in which each man's hands shape the future, work which is done with a will and understanding. Work which allows men who not so long ago did not share even a common language to cooperate with each other, to work as a team. The saplings raised at Eshtaol are mainly pines, tamarisks, acacias, and eucalyptus. They are the stockpile for the forests in the mountains. During the planting season, Eshtaol reflects the great activity throughout the Judean hills. Each day, consignments of saplings leave, bound for afforestation centers in the area. Each day, the saplings begin their journey upwards to the mountainsides and slopes which will be their permanent homes. Each morning, trucks leave Jerusalem, as they leave other towns and villages throughout the country, to take workers to new forest sites. The men who climb aboard the trucks are mainly unskilled immigrants recently arrived in Israel. Since 1948, the Jewish National Fund has provided more than 250,000 workdays in afforestation alone. Some 5,000 men are given work each planting season. On payday at an afforestation center, you feel the excitement of men who are learning that they have an important part to play in Israel's growth. A new immigrant in a new land needs beyond all else a sense of confidence, a sense of being needed, a knowledge of his own capacity for self-sufficiency. You feel that it is more than mountainsides which are being rehabilitated by the Jewish National Fund. In recent years, the Jewish National Fund has extended its afforestation program to the Negev, Israel's southland, barren and treeless for centuries. The needs of the Negev are far different from the needs of the mountain country. There, large forests are planted in order to hold the precious topsoil and prevent erosion, also to produce timber and beautify the countryside. In the Negev, the enemy is sand. Trees are needed to anchor sand dunes, which otherwise wander with the wind and encroach on neighboring fields to destroy hard-won crops. And so small groves and clumps and rows of trees are planted rather than great contiguous forests. In the fields of the Negev, you will see thin lines of trees. Shelter belts, they are called, which protect fields and farms from the constantly shifting sands. But it is alongside the roads of the Negev that you see most clearly the importance of trees in the desert. With the partnership of Jewish communities and individuals thousands of miles away, the JNF is planting miles of trees, 3,200 trees to the mile. These miles of trees are living buffers against the drifting sands, which can blot out a highway in a matter of a few hours. The little markers on the roadside announce the understanding of those who make these avenues of trees a possibility. The great handicap in the afforestation of the Negev has been, of course, the lack of water. The young saplings must be irrigated. This meant that afforestation was limited to areas close to the water pipeline. Bringing water to the Negev has been one of the great and continuing tasks of the country, as Israel seeks to bring fertility to the southern wasteland. The great pipes carried on the trucks hold promise of a day in which this part of Israel will be covered by shade-giving, moisture-holding trees. There is a sense of excitement in this project which goes forward day by day, a sense of great achievement in the battle against the desert. Meanwhile, to avoid the use of water, JNF foresters have introduced a North African method of planting. Instead of digging holes, ridges are thrown up to receive young trees. The ridges hold the moisture of the earth and need no irrigation. The JNF experimental tree nursery for the Negev is in Gilat. Here, one successful experiment has led to planting sisal, which produces fiber for rope and sacks. It is hoped that within a few years, 20,000 dunams will produce sisal, and Israel will be self-sufficient in the manufacture of products from it. In Israel, you see various kinds of trees. In Galilee, there are still remnants of old oak forests. But the new woodlands are mainly pines. Pines need little soil, and their roots pierce deeply into the earth. seeking out whatever little living space exists between the stones and rocks. Throughout Israel, the JNF chooses the right species to meet local conditions. This is an old eucalyptus forest near Hadera, planted by the early colonists of Baron Rothschild. Where there is now a beautiful interplay of light and shadow, there were once only malaria-ridden marshes. The early colonists chose eucalyptus because it drains the earth of moisture. Today, eucalyptus is planted again, but for a different reason. It produces one of the finest kinds of wood for commercial uses. Each kind of tree has not only beauty, but purpose. Among the trees now widely planted are tamarisks, acacias, and the noble cypress. Recently introduced is the picturesque carob tree. Beautiful, yes, but useful too. Its fruit is a highly nutritious fodder for cattle and poultry. Although we generally think of planting trees when we talk of afforestation, JNF work extends as well to the care and conservation of the forests. Israel's forests are young, but some have fully matured and must be thinned and pruned if the trees are to grow. Like all of Israel's forestry program, lumbering operations are carefully planned and carried out. Only those trees are felled which are so close to one another that their growth and development would be held back if they were not removed. The sound of the ringing axe in Israel's woodlands is a sound of construction, not of haphazard destruction. Each tree felled allows water and light to reach the other trees. Each cry of timber heralds further growth and majesty for the trees which are left in the forest. The logs that race down the mountainsides are small as compared to the forest harvest of other countries, but they are deeply important to the Israel economy. They also represent the first economic return on monies invested by the JNF in planting forests. Israel's average annual wood consumption is 400,000 tons, and most of this wood is being imported. The aim of Israel's foresters is to supply 1/3 of the country's present needs. That would require an area of 500,000 dunams of mature woodlands. It is hoped that this goal is achieved in 10 to 15 years. Meanwhile, the woodland product is already being used. At the Sefen factory in Emek Jezreel, JNF-grown timber is used exclusively and frequently finds its way to other lands. Like people everywhere, Israelis love the tranquility and peace of forests. Perhaps men and women in a pioneering land, where the stresses of daily life are above average, appreciate these simple natural virtues more than most. They find joy and happiness in Israel's growing woodland areas. And there are other, smaller creatures who presumably are also grateful to the JNF. For most people, the forests mean beauty and a sense of closeness with nature. But there is a deeper meaning, a great sentimental mission which Israel's forests serve. They perpetuate the names of those in whose honor they were planted. A forest lives and grows, and in Israel the names of statesmen and of kings, of friends of the Jewish people and Jewish leaders, are perpetuated in the very soil of Israel, to be handed down from generation to generation. The honor is not reserved only for the great. The rank and file of the Jewish world are likewise linked to Israel through Israel's forests. For these children marching up the rocky hillsides around Jerusalem, the planting of a tree is a compact with the future. When you place a tree in the ground, you make a promise that you will be there tomorrow to care for your tree and watch it grow. The Jerusalem forest they are helping to plant will have 1 million trees, a belt of green surrounding the holy city, providing playgrounds and recreation, adding also the soft touch of woodland to the gray contours of the hills surrounding the holy city. This young forest, like all the others, having been planted with so much care and love, labor and investment must be protected from damage. One of the greatest dangers is fire. In a hot, dry country where drought is a usual condition, where the parched land is without rain for the greater part of the year, fire must be fought vigorously. Fire lanes, planned in advance, are one way of preventing conflagrations. Observation towers built by the Keren Kayemet in recent years are another measure for fire control. During the summer, guards are on duty day and night to spot any suspicious smoke rising in the wide area which can be seen from the lookout points. The observation towers also attract many visitors who enjoy the wide vistas of the countryside. It is a great day when a forest is to be born. There is a lightheartedness and excitement when the planters are children. And if it should be Tu Bishvat, the new year of the trees, the holiday spirit is much in evidence. Recently, thousands of Jerusalem children planted the first trees in Adullam, a new area being developed southwest of Jerusalem. The 15 villages which will rise in Adullam will have shade and beauty put there by the hands of young children. Tu Bishvat is, more than most, a children's holiday. These youngsters may not understand it yet, but the tiny seedlings given them are a promise of a time to come in which each man shall sit beneath his tree. These little ones, like the tender plants they carry, will grow together toward that day, and like the children, the plants are part of Israel's great tomorrow. That tomorrow is brought closer by each forest which is born. Here, hundreds of guests from Great Britain and Ireland joined in dedicating the Independence Forest. They heard Mr. Joseph Weitz stress the importance of the afforestation program, a program begun during the time of the Mandate when the British flag flew over Palestine. And they listened as Mrs. Golda Meir, Israel's foreign minister, urged neighboring Arab states to undertake similar constructive activity as a starting point for peace. Both a nation and a man were honored by the Jews of France when the Gilbert forest was dedicated atop Mount Biria near Safed. Foreign Foreign Minister Golda Meir paid tribute to the popular French ambassador to Israel, Monsieur Pierre Gilbert. And a distinguished audience, both from Israel and from France, heard the ambassador, who has learned to speak a perfect Hebrew, reaffirm the great traditional friendship between France and Israel. There was deep symbolism in establishing this forest, for as Ambassador Gilbert was honored, two nations expressed their friendship for each other. While most of the forest had been planted, Ambassador Gilbert placed still another tree, a further promise of warm friendship. A promise reaffirmed by Foreign Minister Golda Meir. Monsieur Gilbert received the tribute of a grateful people with typical French grace. The forest most meaningful to the Jewish heart is the Martyrs' Forest in memory of the 6 million Jewish dead. As part of this forest, a B'nai B'rith forest will be planted, 500,000 trees, in memory of those who gave their lives in Hitler's Europe. American representatives of B'nai B'rith joined in a solemn ceremony in the Judean hills as the new forest was born. The tragedy and heroism of the 6 million will live eternally as a bright flame in the hearts of the Jewish people. Out of death, there had come life. Out of a memory of pain, the promise of fruitfulness. For on this hillside, another forest will be born. From small beginnings, the JNF, serving a people's will and faith, has carried forward, planting in the first 10 years of Israel's nationhood some 32 million trees, all in all clothing some 200,000 dunams of the land of Israel. Each day, each week, each month in Israel, the forests are born. The roots move firmly downwards, reclaiming an ancient heritage. And the branches of the trees reach upwards toward the heavens and Israel's destiny. Look upon the forests and rejoice. Look even on the barren hillsides which remain and offer up thanksgiving. For the land, each square foot is filled with promise. And the vision of Ezekiel is being realized as Israel's forests are born. And the tree of the field shall yield her fruit, and they shall be safe, safe upon their own soil.